Hey guys, so let's talk about last night's 200th episode of Supernatural. This is a show that I really love, you guys, that I rarely do reviews for. But since last night's episode was number 200, and it was kind of awesome, I figured I should talk about it. First of all, let me say, if you do not watch Supernatural, you guys need to get into it. Go back to Netflix and start from the beginning because it is just so good. So let's talk about what was so awesome about last night's episode. First of all, when Supernatural gets meta, I just love it. And this episode was full of little like nods and winks to the fans. So the whole gist of last night's episode is that Sam and Dean are looking for a case. They're pretty desperate to work, right? Because they're supposed to be resting, but that doesn't last very long. And so they kind of go out on a limb and they end up in this little town where it turns out that the high school is putting on a musical version of Supernatural. Now, of course, they're basing that on the Supernatural books, but it was just so hilarious when they walked into the gym and you just hear these kids start singing, and there were props and there were little girls dressed like Dean and Sam and Bobby, and it was just awesome. I noticed a lot of little hints and subtext in this episode as well. I mean, they dealt with Wincest, Destiel. That was my favorite, you guys. When Dean makes a comment about Destiel and then he actually turns and looks into the camera, I just absolutely loved that. Destiel, the reason that I cannot search the Supernatural tag on Tumblr because it's just flooded with Destiel stuff. And you know what? If that is your thing, then okay. Me, not so much. I just really want to see pictures of Dean Winchester because I love him. So yeah, I really loved all of those little bits. Dean had some fantastic lines at the beginning of the episode. He was just on fire, and that was pretty great. Thinking back to the first episode too, there was a scene in this episode, you know, with the trunk shot, you know, where you see the boys like putting stuff into the trunk where all of the supernatural kind of weapons are at. And you see the camera shot up from the trunk, so you see the two of them kind of looking down into the trunk, which was a scene towards the end of the very first episode. So it was kind of cool to see them do that shot in this episode. So yeah, I loved all the singing. The songs were great. When they started singing Carry On My Wayward Son at the end, I mean, it was like the end of Les Mis when they all get together and sing that song and it gives me goosebumps. It was like that. A few other things I really loved. I loved the shot at the end, you know, when Sam and Dean kind of get back in their car and head back out on the road. And it just kind of reminded you what Supernatural is all about. And it really does almost feel a little bit like a new beginning for the two of them. So that was really cool. Also, the Scarecrow was in this episode, you guys. That is seriously one of the scariest Supernatural episodes to me. Is season 1 is that freaking Scarecrow in the field. It just freaks me out. I rewatch it every now and then and it just scares me. So it was cool to kind of see the Scarecrow, though, I must admit. The ending, too. Let's talk about the ending, you guys, because who should show up but Chuck? So Chuck is back, I'm guessing? I was so excited to see him. I squealed like a little girl. So yeah, way to shock me at the end of the episode, Supernatural. Way to go. So yeah, you guys, it was a great episode full of things that reminded me why I have loved 200 episodes of Supernatural and why I would watch all 200 of them over and over again and do it with pleasure. Okay, you guys, that is it for me today. Thanks so much for watching and I will see you again soon. Bye.